So I think you and I are both fixers, right? And there are different people who manage, failure and getting shit wrong and they take in information differently. I'm a fixer. So if there's a problem, like A plus B equals C, 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? Sometimes 3, depending on who you are. So I think in terms of handling failure, if you're asking me personally, you have to be dragged through the dirt a lot to develop thicker skin and anticipate and forecast and do all those things. I think I'm at the age now, and I've been through so much shit over the last 25 years, like in corporate and in marketing, where you're almost bulletproof, right? It could be maturity, right? But it's also experience, right? We'll go back to boxing. You take a right hook to the face like 3 or 4 times, you're going to know when that right hook's coming the 5th time, right? But you have to take that right hook for the first 4 times for your body and your mind to predict when that right hook's coming again. And I've taken a lot of fucking right hooks, right? It's a tough road to, do things you want to do, have confidence in yourself, give yourself some grace, right? Like, I think that's also important. But I think you really have to give yourself some grace with failing. And I know, people are always like, failure's cool. Like, that's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually feel it and be okay with that, right? My kids are young, right? Like, my daughter is just as ambitious as I am. And when she fails, she breaks down, right? So, to have us there as parents to support her and like try and shake her out of it, it's tough, right? Like, I think it's tough for a lot of people to accept failure, right? It's one thing to say, oh man, I probably should have done better, or I could have done better, or this screwed up. You're just recognizing that. You're not accepting it, right? To fully ingest it and understand what you've done and kind of all the impacts of that is admirable. But it's tough, right? But I think you have to you've got to take a couple punches to the face so you know what that feels like, and then you can somehow predict when that right hook is coming again. And the only way you can do that is, again, you have to get on the floor and do a couple push-ups. Like, you're never going to avoid failure. It's coming. It's part of the process. And again, super cliche, it's just part of, winning and losing, right? For you to win, you probably have to lose 10 or 20 times, right? You're never going to be winning all the time.
Do you feel like that happened with Retrokid? Do you feel like you've lost more than you've won?
I think, we've been pretty lucky so far. Do I lose sleep over when that failure is going to come? All the time. Like, I don't sleep anymore, dude.
Keeps you up at night?
Keeps me up at night, man. Like, I always tell everybody, I'm now in a position of, one, as a father, a provider, right? A father of 2 kids, a husband, and a partner to my wife, where just as men, we naturally need to provide, right? If I don't bring home a piece of meat from hunting that day, hey, guess what? We're not eating, right? And everyone's gonna be like, bro, dad fucked up. Like, he didn't bring home the meat today. And that keeps me up at night. But, I don't think, or I haven't seen it yet, maybe just from my corner of the office, like, I haven't seen Retrokid fall flat yet. I know it's coming. I know that right hook is coming. I just don't know when. But I do know that when it does happen, we have a really good enough team to help recover and, get back up and figure shit out.
I see you're comfortable with yourself. Like you're okay to be.
Because I'm old.
Okay, so I was gonna say, how does that?
You got to get old, Pav.
So when you become older, you just don't care.
Yeah, like they always say, once you pass a certain age, and like for most men, it's like 40 to 45, right? That's where you're at that stage of like, I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks because I've been through the shit.
So what about someone who, like, I think of like the high school kid who, is coming into their own. It's awkward. The hormones are everywhere, acne, all that stuff. Like, how do you? What would
Sorry, got to go through it.
you got to go through it?
You got like my daughter is at that starting. She's at the start line, right? She's 12. She's trying to figure it out, and like all of the trauma that I had when I was 12 or 11 in grade 7 or grade 8, it comes back because she's basically holding up a mirror and she's like, "Oh, I'm having, these problems." But it's a reflection also on you, right? And as a good parent, if you want to be the good parent, you start to immediately say, "Well, how do I help her? How do I not let her go through the same things that I went through?" Because for me that was traumatic. So you're like, how do I and especially as a dad with a daughter, you're like, how do I protect this girl from this massive dragon, right? How do I slay the dragon? But it's really, they just have to go through it, right? Like you can't, as a parent, if you had the ability to protect your children from all of these traumatic experiences that you might have gone through or that are present, you're actually robbing them from the opportunity to figure it out for themselves. Right?
Yeah.
Like kids have to go through, like you and I had to go through some shit to get to where we are today. Right? If you didn't go through that shit, you ever wonder where you'd be?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like you have to go through some shit.
I'd be happy. And now I'm miserable.